Welcome to Around Town, featuring what's happening here in the greater Concord area. I'm your host, Dick Patten, and it's a pleasure to welcome you back as we basically say goodbye to the month of August, finally, and welcome in September. And it doesn't seem possible that the apples now are coming through the orchard, and football is in the air, and it just doesn't seem that the leaves will be. I've seen the first leaves already starting to turn, so. But autumn is in the wind and say goodbye to summer, but we need rain bad. So with me today is my special guest, Michael Uffenbeck, who has been working with the Concord Resource Center. He's also an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer, and we had Michael on my radio show last week of Faith Speaks, and yeah, it was quite interesting because the Concord Resource Center helps a lot of people that otherwise probably wouldn't know where to go for help or anything. And Michael, you had quite a tenure there talking about things there, and I had a chance to see it yesterday. And you're located down on North Main Street, where the old used to be Child and Family Services. We used to call it Hassle House for teenagers that didn't have a place to go, and they would go there. But
it's 238 North Main Street.
238, yes, I know. And that driveway hasn't changed a bit. Still hard to back out of there. You take your life in your hands when you do, but anyhow. But
yeah. Well, we tried to do some improvement. We added a handicap parking spot now, and our landlord installed a ramp so it's accessible to people who are handicapped as well. So.
Well, I saw that yesterday, and I got thinking, gee, the house that we were living in, that we sold to the National Guard, we had a beautiful handicap ramp that was made out of custom wood or whatever, and so of course when my folks passed away, and my sister couldn't afford the taxes there because they went around the tax rolls again, they ultimately just tore up the ramp. It was leaning against the fence, and I got thinking, gee, what a shame, because that was a beautiful ramp. And I said, if I'd thought about it, if I'd known,
Sure.
we could have got it for you down there, and it may still be there, but I'm surprised that now down back of that house, there's no room for parking down there, right? It's just plain a hill that goes down into the valley, like
it's a hill that goes down into basketball court.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that they had installed for the kids. We don't actually use it for our clients, but it's there.
I didn't know that. That'd be too bad you couldn't put a few parking spots down in there or something, but.
Yeah, there's been talk about doing that, but no funding to do it yet. So.
No, that's the thing. So, but the resource center is. I know I saw yesterday probably about 10 people that were sitting there. They were painting the fence, I believe, out there. But you say that they're open, was it Monday through Friday or Thursday from 9 to 2 or 10 to 2?
It's open Monday through Friday, 9 to 2, but our hours after Labor Day are going to be shortened to 9 to 1.
Wow.
Just due to some funding issues.
Yeah.
So.
Have you gotten, do you get funding do they get funding from the, say like the state at all, or from the city welfare or whatever, or any funding, like from United Way maybe or something?
Yes, there's a variety of different sources for our funding. We've gotten through grants, like Lincoln Financial has provided some, United Way has. Last winter, the city gave us funding that allowed us to stay open until 5, but that's not happening this winter. And a lot of private donations from all over the city, as well as we do an annual fundraiser called Superfest, and we get a lot of sponsorships for that, and it's an event where we have uh, 21 soup chefs come in and provide different artisan soups that people can try, and also a fun fest where there's games and all kinds of things that are fun for the kids. And we bring in about 600 people to that event every year, so
Wow.
that's been really successful for us. And
Yeah.
it helps because grants tend to not cover operating costs. They cover more like the development of new programs and things like that, but nobody really likes to fund the nitty-gritty day-to-day
No, I
with
know.
grants as much.
No.
So we need money that just we can spend in any which way we want, whereas a grant kind of stipulates where you
Sure.
can spend it. So
Yeah. Interesting. Now, Michael, you said your term is coming to an end down there. Is there any way you could stay on another year if they had the funding, or is it just your choice that you want to try something else?
it is in part my choice, and in part that's how AmeriCorps is designed to,
Oh, is it?
is to be where you work with an organization for a limited period of time and kind of help build them up to include more programs than maybe they were able to offer in the past, and help increase the efficiency of the organization, and
Sure.
then you move on. So I've been able to recruit a lot of volunteers that were doing some of the work that I was doing, so hopefully it'll continue on long after I'm gone.
Well, that's good. And then now you're looking forward to maybe going to another route, maybe over to the Audubon or something of that nature. You want to stay in the wildlife area, maybe?
Yeah, because that's my profession by trade is I'm a wildlife biologist. So
Really?
yeah.
Interesting. The folks that were there yesterday, now, they basically, are they considered homeless? I mean, the resource center, I know you said, can't put anybody up to sleep overnight there, even though there are bedrooms there, or were bedrooms there.
Yeah.
So you couldn't put anybody up overnight, emergency housing, nothing like that?
As it is right now, per like fire codes and things like that,
Yeah.
the building is not up to par. You would have to install a sprinkler system in order to have an overnight facility, which we don't have at this time. So we're not legally, we can't do that right now. And we serve people that are not necessarily just homeless. We serve people who are in imminent danger of losing their house as well. So we'd like to, ideally it's best if we catch people earlier on than after they've been homeless for
sure.
6 months. It's
Yep.
much easier to solve their problems in the early stages than it is later on. Because you just get farther and farther into the
Yeah.
homeless life cycle. And one person that I had talked to, because I did some interviews of various people around town that are providing services to homeless individuals, explained it as it's 20 miles into the woods and 50 miles to get back out. It's a very easy downward spiral to end up homeless. And there's a lot of different ways people end up there, but it's much harder after as time goes on
Sure.
to get back out. It can take some people years of up and down cycles before they find their way back out.
Yep, I'm sure it is, because it's a scary situation. And as you and I talked yesterday, you know, the city, to my knowledge, has done nothing about looking at this coming winter for the homeless situation. You know, it's really sad that they wait until something happens, and then they start blaming each other for, why aren't you doing something? Well, I thought you were doing something. No, I thought you were doing something. You know, it's like a case of blame the other
kind
one.
of the tragedy of the commons sort of
Yeah.
thing, where everyone thinks somebody else is doing it.
And I don't know if, you know, we're going to have that crazy winter like we had last year again, or if we're going to go back to the way it used to be back in they said the 50s. according to Kevin Scarupo, and I talked to him once recently, he said that the weather that we had last winter was reminiscent of the 1950s. Well, I grew up in the 50s, and I don't remember that kind of weather. All I remember is a lot of snow and cold weather, but maybe there was and I wasn't around, I don't know. But anyway, but I still say it's got to be sad, 'cause I'm sure that these are all young people. They're not. I don't think. Are there many older people like over 50, or is it just within the 20 to 30 age group? 15 to 16 to 30. What is the age group there?
I think there's the whole age range for the most part. Our particular facility doesn't really have the capacity to do a whole lot for children, but we do occasionally get kids and even infants.
Yeah.
All the way on up to the older ages of up to about 65 or so. Not as much beyond the age of 65, because then people are able to get Social Security.
Sure. Yeah.
And that can help them have an income that will help them get out.
Yeah.
But it's tends to be a few, probably more men overall.
Really?
Than women. And all different reasons why they're there. Anything from I just lost my job and haven't been able to find a new one. To struggling with addictions, and one person explained it to me pretty well too, is that people don't always understand is that homelessness often is just a symptom of all the other things that have been going on in their life.
Sure.
And so people tend to write somebody off that is suffering an addiction.
Yeah.
Saying that it's their own fault because they're not overcoming their addiction, but not always considering the things might have gone on in their life that led them down the path to not being able to, or ever having been taught how to cope really very well with stress, and thinking that the best way to deal with stress is just to drink a whole lot, or
you're right.
They may have come from a bad family, and so people oftentimes I don't think understand that you need to look at the whole picture with people and realize that you don't necessarily know the whole story about somebody, and so it's really dangerous to start putting labels on people and just saying that they're this or that.
Exactly.
So I think that's important for people to understand, especially in the homeless population.
Now you haven't started like a food pantry there, right?
So we don't run a food pantry. There's several places all over town that are doing that, mostly through the churches.
Yeah.
And we provide our guests with some light snacks and coffee. Food has never really been our focus. What we really want is to have people come in and try to engage the guests and talk to them and find out what their problems are and get them talking to our case manager, who's going to then connect them with other people in the community that have more expertise and are more able to deal with specific problems. Like Riverbend is very specialized in handling mental health type issues.
Sure.
Or they also have some programs that help out with substance abuse. And others in town are better suited for handling families and all the aspects of that are a little different. So we don't try to be everything. We just try to be kind of the first stop where people can go, and then we'll get them to where they need to go and help them navigate through the system, and we'll help them get an ID if they need an ID. We'll help them sign up for SSDI if they have a disability. And if that happens to be the barrier to them getting out of homelessness, we'll help them get food stamps if that's what they need. And people sometimes may not know coming from outside, because I know before I started this job I didn't, that the value of an ID is very important, because you cannot even go and apply for a job if you don't have an ID. You can't apply for food stamps, and you can't get a car. You can't do a whole lot of anything if you don't have an ID. So that's often one of the first steps in the process, is to help somebody with that.
Because you mentioned that about the car, that came up this last 2 years in my state committee, transportation. What do people do if they have no legal address or whatever, and they need to get a car, but they don't have a home, a house? What do they do?
So we've worked out a deal with the state where our address can be the address that they use as their permanent home when they go and apply for ID.
Yeah.
So that helps out people a lot. But yes, transportation is a big issue, and we don't really have all the solutions to that yet. We've had a church that's been providing us some money that is then used to buy some bus tickets to get around town. Not necessarily the ideal situation, because the bus tickets don't always end up getting used for what you thought they were going to get used for.
I was going to say,
because there's a whole underside of homelessness where they're trading different items for things you may not want to be helping them get. So you can give them a bus pass, but then they might go and trade that, because there's like a market of bartering that goes on between them, where that then gets traded to be something else. So in some sense it would be nicer if we had a service where we'd be able to drive the person right to where they say they want to go, so that you know that it's doing what you thought it was going to do. And so that's a difficult situation. And also working around a bus schedule doesn't always work well with the job that you may have, and the bus doesn't really cover the entire city either, so there can be places that are difficult for somebody to get to. That can be a barrier to moving on. So.
But you are right, because that came, like I said, that came up in our committee when we had that bill about having a place that they can use as their address. But do you get now? They also use your telephone number too?
We have, at our facility, we have our own phone number for the office side of things.
Yeah.
We have a separate phone number that is shared among all the guests, and they can use that as their phone number if anyone should want to contact them. And then if they're not there, and they leave a message, we have a message board where we write down that so and so called this number back. So that's how we deal with that. And we also provide because it is their address, we provide a mail service too. So that can be really important as far as if you work somewhere and you need to get your check, where does it go to? So
exactly.
That's a thing that can be important, and just staying in touch with other people in their life. So.
But what happens though? I mean, if they go, I guess one case, say like they're running up a bunch of bills or whatever, and they're giving your address, your phone number. What happens in that case? You gave them permission to do that, and they're calling out their domicile or whatever. But what do you do in that case?
We haven't really had a lot of problems with that, because their name is still attached to it. It's not when they get a letter in the mail, it says their name and our address, but it doesn't say their name, then Concord Homeless Resource Center, and then the address. It's just like going to the post office and having a P.O. box, basically, is how it ends up.
Yeah.
The equivalent of being. So it hasn't really affected us.
Oh, that's good then, because I can just imagine your phone ringing off the hook from bill collectors or somebody saying, well, you gave them this, they gave us this number, and we're supposed to be able to contact them here, and then
Yeah.
that person has disappeared or whatever, you know.
Well, they just get a letter in the mail from the collection agency, and that's still their responsibility. It doesn't get passed on to
I mean, how
the organization.
Here you have tried your best to help them, and yet they take advantage of the system, and that's what's sad.
There is some of that goes on. I've seen with people that went so far as to take somebody into their house, and then the person decided to take advantage of them and got a hold of their financial records and all that. But I guess it's just like any population of people. There's going to be the good people and the bad people, and you take 100 people anywhere, and it's the same thing.
So, with winter coming, I mean, we're heading toward fall. When do they really consider the season for the month to get them out of the woods and into a home? I mean, is it November or December? We've had some chilly nights there, and even October, the end of October a bit. Do they just let them stay out in the woods until whatever? I mean, is there any rule that says they have to come in? They can't stay out there.
I don't think there's any law that requires anyone to come in.
Yeah.
There are some that, even though we had a winter shelter this last winter, stayed out the entire winter anyway. Because some of them did not want to follow the rules that were part of being in the shelter, so
you have to wonder.
It's very a lot of independent people sometimes.
Oh, yes.
They don't like being told that you have to do this and that and the other thing. So
you have to wonder, Michael, though, sometimes how the cleanliness, how disease and all that stuff. I mean, you'd think they would worry about that, but I guess they don't seem to worry us. I mean, I would, especially if it's kids involved.
As far as living
in the
out in the woods.
I mean, this ignoring any help that somebody wants to try to extend to them. But I don't know. I just can't imagine myself having a small child out there. And what is that child thinking? Are they hearing the parents say, well, this city government is no good, this is what they do to you, and that kid grows up very much hating the city or the people who try to help them, and it just I just can't imagine how it must be, though.
Yeah, it's hard to really say too much on that without knowing any. It's a very individualized thing from one person to the next of why they are in the circumstance that they're in. So it's hard to wouldn't want to generalize and say that this is what that person must be thinking, because unless you entirely know the person, you can't really say.
So you're going to miss it. You've been with us now almost 2 years. You're going to miss working with them?
I think in some sense I will. Yeah. I think one thing that's been really great for me is to have grown from the perspective of just seeing them as homeless people to knowing that person's name is Ryan or John or Bill or whatever it might be, and then actually know something about that person and kind of know them more than just a label, and kind of have some more understanding of what they're struggling with, and kind of have a more of a connection with each person's humanity.
Well, you've done a real good job, Michael. I mean, it shows that you care, and you really have a good heart there, because it is a tough situation. Did you ever think maybe sometime in the last 2 years when you've been dealing with this that maybe you'd like to take someone home to give them a nice night, a hot meal or something, and a good bed to sleep in or something, but yet if you did, maybe that would be problems or something, or would you?
Yeah, we always have tried to, as a policy of the place, set certain boundaries,
Mm.
and you have to be able to go home at night, and that sometimes that's hard. I mean,
It is.
You go home and have some nights where it's hard to get to sleep because you're still thinking about
Yep.
some other people out there and
Oh yeah.
what they're having to deal with, and you're sitting in your warm house.
Yeah.
It can be difficult.
Oh, I know. Well, you came here from, I remember you telling me last week you came here from Wisconsin, and is life a little bit different out there than it is here? I mean, are they pretty much the same problems they have out there that we have here? Or?
It's fairly similar. I came from a very rural area. There's only about 800 people in town versus
Really?
being in a city like this, so much different in terms of that.
So were you near Green Bay? Were you near
Northern Wisconsin,
Madison,
near
or?
like Duluth, Superior, that area.
Oh, really? Now that's up there, right?
Yeah,
Up
yeah. So a little different environment, and I also went to grad school down in Arkansas.
Oh, really?
And visited one of the homeless centers down there and kind of asked them about it, and I learned that it was, in many ways, it was similar to what's going on here, where there's a homeless population that was there, and they're camping in the peripheral areas of the city in the woods, and not really visible in the same way that somebody that doesn't know a lot about what's going on in the community can drive through Concord and think there's no homeless people here at all.
Oh, yeah, all around.
So, but then they are there, and before I took this job, I wasn't aware of the extent of the situation here.
Well, you've done well. You've got yourself some more education, and now you're going on to a new path, and hopefully more success. And what do you hope to really gain initially? I mean, you've been here. Now you hope to go into the biology type of it. You said, what is your ultimate goal, you think?
I'd really like to get a permanent job in wildlife biology, and I've been working towards that for quite some time. And be able to be in a place long enough where with biology it takes a lot of years before you see the results of your work. But to be able to do like a land management position and kind of be able to see how I've built something up over a number of years that's better than I found it. So
yeah, well, that's good. Well, we're coming to a close of Around Town. We've been talking with Michael Uffenbeck about his role at the Concord Resource Center, and if you have any questions or would like to offer some assistance to them, they would love to have you come down there at
283 North Main Street.
North Main Street. Up in the upper
We're always
end.
looking for volunteers that would like to help out, and there's a number of different ways that people can get involved. So you can look us up. We have a website as well. It's www.concordhomeless.org, and a Facebook page. That's facebook.com/concordhomeless. And we run some events that are just one-day events where you can volunteer for a day, or some volunteers find they really love it and
There you go.
have been volunteering once a week or twice a week for years. So
Sure.
all different levels of involvement depending on your interest.
Good. Well, thanks for joining us, Michael, and we wish you well in your pursuits, and thanks to our director there, Ian. And with that in mind, have a great day, great weekend, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon on Around Town.